Yo, first and foremost, just let you guys know, Billion Godsun here, as you guys will see him on the ballot for the 55th district within Crenshaw, William Campbell. So, Billion, what's good with you, man? And we could just jump right into it. Why are you running? And what are your reasons? And then, of course, what are you proposing for the citizens, especially of Crenshaw?
Man, first and foremost, I want to thank you, Prince Solomon, and the whole Thought Crimes team. Y'all been a huge support for the work we do for the past few years. Considering our own black media in Los Angeles tends to kind of black us out, ignore the work we do. So most definitely salute to you all for what you do and providing your platform. Um, Basically, what got me to run is because our black misleadership has completely, I won't even say ignore no more, but they are enabling the black erasure that is happening out here in Los Angeles. Black folks are losing their homes. They're being evicted from their apartments. And those who can afford to move out the city, out the state are doing so. However, there is a continued growing number of people who are landing on the sidewalks out here. They're living out of cars. They're living in and out of hotels. They're sleeping on people's couches. And again, our black misleadership is ignoring that. However, at the same time, we are seeing they're taking care of people who are being identified as illegal immigrants. They are also finding funds to both send over to Israel, but to also take care of survivors of the Holocaust that are right here within Los Angeles, within California. So the climax for me was back in 2024, after we had spent a couple years, and that year specifically, getting the state to both acknowledge they had participated, or they did participate, in the enslavement of our ancestors. And from the emancipation of slavery till today, they have continued systemically to find ways to oppress, to exploit, to terrorize black people. And as a result of that, we got California to come with the first ever California Reparations Task Force. And this is work that our coalition, our Africatown coalition, did with a larger statewide coalition known as CJEC, the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California. Of the recommendations the task force came with in 2024, Senator Stephen Bradford came with probably the only two reparation bills that have been presented within the state. We know a lot of information is going out to mislead people that the Governor Gavin Newsom approved this or that reparations bill, but all of that was bogus. The only two real reparations bills we had were presented by Senator Stephen Bradford. One to establish a Freedmen Affairs Agency, and the second one was to establish a fund, basically a bank account to start collecting, I believe it was 6% of the state's emergency fund, and to put it into that bank account to start paying us. And in 2024, after spending an entire year to get those bills through all the committees it had to go through, to get support of Democrats, Republicans, Black, white, Latinos, Asians, Senator Stephen Bradford was able to help champion that all the way through the legislative process, and it came down to the final vote. So there are two legislative houses within the state, similar to how it is on the federal level. There are senators, and then there's the assembly. So Senator Stephen Bradford, he got it all the way through the Senate, and he bounced it over to his colleagues in the California Legislative Black Caucus to get it through the final vote in the assembly. And our assembly members refused to put the bills up for a final vote. So that led to a lot of outrage that some people might be familiar with in 2024. In 2025, they had an opportunity to bring those bills back. Not only did they not bring those bills back, they chose to further delay our reparations effort by calling for another study, another 3 to 5 year study And again, with Black LA, Black California not being in a state of emergency anymore, we say we're in a state of being erased, we're in a state of being wiped out. That was beyond disrespectful. At that point is when we realized these individuals will not do what Black California, Black LA needs. So that's when many of us started considering running. And then finally, as the clock, was coming down to the last ticks for somebody to do it, I went ahead, threw my hat into the race. And that's where we've been for about the past 5 months or so now, finding ways to build a constituency to both address the needs in our 1/3 of the district, which is Black. A lot of the Crenshaw district, three of the wealthiest Black communities, they say, in the nation: Windsor Hills, Baldwin Hills, Ladera Heights, a couple other surrounding areas like Mid City that still has a good amount of Black people in it. But in addition, there's 2/3 of the district that's predominantly not us. So we have gone to those areas, and we've also found ways to connect with people in different areas and listen. And in general, there is an affordability crisis in Los Angeles, within the state of California. And this isn't just in the Black community, as I was saying. We've gone, to the Jewish community. We've gone and spoken to Latinos. We've gone and spoken to other white folks and Asians. And everyone is saying right now, with the prices, even before the so-called war in Iran, people were having hard times affording to live in this state. So that is what we're looking at. And the primary issue, because, I could say I'm looking to come with this policy, that policy, but the primary issue is the game in California has basically come down to politicians coming with policies and either helping to fund their own nonprofits that they were a part of or that they're attached to, and other nonprofits that they select and choose for these policies that they come with, as opposed to coming with policies to address and tackle the affordability crisis, which basically means they would have to fight the banks, they would have to fight the developers, and they would have to fight their own colleagues that are enabling this affordability crisis. So I'll fall back there, and whatever other questions are there.
No, I mean, no, I'm glad you had a chance to really break down and give background and insight of what it is that you've been fighting for and dealing with. Now, we had you and Brandy Kane, on the channel before, and especially, we've been rocking. Brandy Kane's been rocking with us since the very beginning of everything, and people may not know, they may not be aware of it, because from the outside perspective, it's California. So, if you've never been to California, you just think Gavin Newsom and, all of the quote unquote liberals that are talking about, the bad things that are going on with Trump and everything. But for what you're highlighting, you're stating, no, Black people, in the neighborhood, being eviscerated, being evicted unjustly, them shutting down apartment complexes. That's something you actually touch on in your campaign as well, because, again, Billion is active on social media just like he's active in the streets. But one of the things he was highlighting about them shutting down complete residential dwellings where Black families, mothers and children are staying at, or even, men staying there as well, the families, the Black families, fathers and mothers. And so, I just want them to kind of get a better understanding and idea. And if anybody that may be listening that happens to be, within the Crenshaw community, maybe you're not all the way up on things directly, but Billion is running. One of the things that you talked about is where the attention is being driven. Like you brought up in passing, you talked about before the Israel war in Iran. And one of the things you can state, for you directly, Billion, is about had you had any donations from like AIPAC, or anybody came knocking at your door and say, hey, Billion, if you lean this way, we got you. You had any of those situations?
No,
Okay,
I've had none during this campaign. Previously, back in 2010, 2013, I did have a individual approach me on two separate occasions who said they worked with the government. They offered me 500,000. Both times I turned it down, and the second time I turned it down in 2013. Later that night, I was shot at out in Watts. But currently, I haven't had anyone approach me. I think by this point, they know I'm not about to take the money. They know I'm for the people. So currently, no, I haven't.
Okay. All right. So then that means, Bill, that means you're not going to be on Bill Maher talking about nothing.
Right.
No, but no. So there you guys have it. Like, he's stating that everything that he's doing, he's funding from the community. He's raising his own money, and he's not playing any games as far as the legitimacy. And not too many of local politicians or people stepping into political roles could say they actually had their life threatened. That means you're actually doing something. Okay, so. With your campaign and how you've been running for the past 5 months, Billion, what has been reception from not only the community, but let's say your rivals, like Isaac, for instance, right? You're looking to unseat the incumbent, Isaac Bryan, and we saw he did show out in 2024, but not in the right way. All right. What has been overall energy and reception?
Well, in our community, amongst the people, folks are excited that finally someone who they believe has been representing them is running for this position. So we've gotten everything from people said they've never voted in their life. They've been registering to vote in this election, to other people like myself who stopped voting for decades. They're saying they're about to vote in this election. And just folks really excited, finally feeling that it's someone not just coming with a college resume or someone who's, worked in different establishment settings looking for a new career position, but again, someone who they know is really going to fight. And on the opposing end, one of the things that we noticed from the beginning was the incumbent is who we call Lion Isaac Bryan. He went in 2021 through a special election. His first election was in 2022. He had a Republican opponent named Keith Cascio. And then again in 2024, it was just him and Keith Cascio. But this year, back in January, there was a fourth lady who is now running, and she and her campaign manager approached us about working with them to do certain community forums, and we felt it wouldn't be in our interest to really work with an opponent and bring community to meet her. We just didn't see that as being sensible. But folks began to suggest that she was actually being run by some of the same folks who support the incumbent Isaac Bryan to take away votes from us. It's a known fact that the Black community at large has a low opinion of Isaac. And what we found, in addition to the reparations bills that he refused to bring forward for that final vote, there was a development bill last year known as SB 79, which allows developers to go into surrounding communities. So a lot of the development to this point has been along major corridors such as Crenshaw, Wilshire, some of the bigger streets people might be familiar with. But what SB 79 now allows them to do, they can go a half a mile off of the main corridors into residential areas. They can buy what have historically been single family homes and now turn those homes into apartment buildings. So a number of more affluent Black people, middle class Black people, are outraged with Isaac for not voting on that. The bill passed by one vote. So Isaac opposing vote could have actually blocked the bill. So we have found that has been a even greater issue for, like I said, some of the middle class to more affluent Black folks. But with this fourth person Ashley Brown, she and her campaign manager approached us for a second time sometime in March. And at that point, our local coalition, Africa Town Coalition, we kind of talked about it, and we decided we'll see, what exactly do they think, they can offer us were we to do that, considering at that point, most of the folks in the community did not know them. So when our campaign manager, Kevin Wharton Price, reached out to her campaign manager and asked, what are you all bringing to the table? Her campaign manager instantly blew up, got irate. And initially they were on the phone, but at one point we realized the guy was standing not too far from where we were at. We were basically sitting in a car talking to him. So once we called him over to the car, he began to approach our campaign manager. Kevin's about 65. This cat is about 35 or so. Mm-hmm. And he was approaching him in a manner as though he wanted to fight. So one of our brothers hopped out of the car to basically intercept that energy. And the guy did tone it down for a minute, but then he got back. And finally, he and Kevin did get into a little verbal exchange. But for about a month after that, he and his candidate, Ashley Brown, were online basically trying to make it appear as though we were the ones trolling them. We were the ones stalking them, and we were the ones asking them to work with us. And we were the ones who disrespected them. So that went on for about a month. Then finally, we did have a candidates forum hosted by one of the local neighborhood councils. And even during that forum, because it was virtual, they were trolling us during the forum. So I did speak out during the forum against it. And then the following day, the forum took place on a Saturday. The following day, we had our weekly food giveaway, which we have had every Sunday for 10 years now. This campaign manager came to our food giveaway, brought his son.
My son, give me a reason. Disrespect my son. Give me
He's trying to use the son as an excuse.
Give me a reason.
Trying to use your son.
Give me a reason.
And again, this was the third time he had come to our food giveaway, so he knew I was going to be there. He knew the hostility and tension between us, and he brought his son and initiated another conflict. But as soon as I, broke out my phone to document it, I wanted to show this time that it was he and they that's actually approaching us with this tension. So I was able to document it, even on the video that I loaded. Some of the folk, some people were able to hear some of the threats he made. When I ended the phone, he made certain threats like, when Billion is killed, I'll be the reason. He saw that triggered some of our volunteers. He put his camera on our volunteers and said, okay, now I'm going to record y'all so my people will know who to come get. And I was telling folks during this interaction that were I to assault this dude or basically defend myself after he made the threats, that the police would come and arrest me. And sure enough, not 2 minutes after he left, the police rolled by. And about 30 minutes after that interaction, he came back into the village, because after our food giveaway, we also helped to manage an open air market in the area we call Africa Town, some know as Lamert Park. And I received a call saying that he was now in the village with a sword on his back, telling people he was going to slice me up. And one of our brothers happened to pass and see him. So we then made a live video basically explaining the situation and that we were going to walk over to the market as we do every Sunday. And by the time we got there, he was not there. But fortunately, by me putting those videos out, a number of people were able to help us better identify both him and his candidate, Ashley Brown. And at one point, we identified that this individual worked for Tom Steyer. Tom Steyer is currently running for governor, but this individual worked for Tom Steyer's 2020 presidential campaign. And the interesting point about Tom Steyer is that the incumbent, Isaac Bryan, who I am running against, he has been endorsed and he has partnered with Tom Steyer basically to where a lot of their campaign advertisement has been together. some of their campaign appearances has been together. So we identified on one end, Tom Steyer is working with the incumbent. He is financing ads with the incumbent. However, this person, Ashley Brown, who is now running, her campaign manager has also been on payroll with Tom Steyer. So we found that very interesting. And for us, it just further validated what people have been saying, that Ashley Brown is basically being run to take away Black votes from us. So a couple of weeks ago, Tom Steyer decided he was going to come into our community and basically ask the Black community for votes. But the way they did it, they chose an establishment and basically decided which people could come in. Basically, people who they invited to come, they tried to block it off to where the rest of the community couldn't get into it. So after the event was over, Tom Steyer exited through the back. He went into the alley, and we went and confronted him because we want to know what is his current relationship with this individual, JC Rowe, who has threatened my life. He has threatened the lives of other people in our community, and he has brung a sword into our community to basically attempt to intimidate people. So we know we deserve answers as to whether or not Tom Steyer still has his individual on payroll and what type of relationship they currently have. So I'll fall back there and see if there are any questions related to what I've shared or anything else.
No, I'm glad for the breakdown, because I did see the video posted on your IG. What you're basically stating is like the dirty, underhanded activities of mainstream politics, and basically they sent into the community a crash out, right? And and then they have Brown is running to split the votes. So you guys are kind of dealing with a lot of dirty tactics because you're not taking any backdoor money. You're not going to be doing the dealing of big real estate, that wants to come in and break up the community, because that's usually a lot of this aggressive energy always has to do with land. You get what I'm saying? So with that direct experience, though, does this play into also what took place? Because I saw online you standing up, proudly for Chef Maryland as well. That kind of plays into the same outfit and the theme in that nature as well.
Yeah, so Chef Maryland's establishment is also on Crenshaw. Since 2015 and not before, in addition to the development that is happening on Crenshaw, they built a train down Crenshaw, and as they built that train, the construction of that train forced over 100 Black businesses out. The construction had traffic so crazy that a lot of folks were turned off from coming into the Crenshaw district to do business. So a number of our businesses shut down because of that. And then not too long into the construction of that, we had COVID, which further shut down a number of our businesses. And Chef Maryland is one of a few who withstood all of that. However, she consistently found herself going through financial hardships. And unfortunately, in her efforts to reach out and partner with people, she repeatedly found herself in predatory partnerships with Black people. And the most recent situation, she entered into a partnership with two young Black women attorneys. Again, not really knowing contractual law like that. She went into a situation that she gradually found within 2 months was not what she wanted. And at one point, the attorneys even locked Chef Maryland out of her establishment. And online, the attorneys speak about the different monies they pay to kind of help Chef Maryland pay her employees to settle some of the debt she was in. However, if a person who knows business see what they paid for the type of business they were attempting to take over, that was a very small investment for a business that regularly generates a lot of income based off of the customer base. So when we found out, we went over there, we stood with her, we made videos, we helped research these attorneys. At one point, I went up to West Hollywood where one of the attorneys work, who is a celebrity attorney. And then gradually, with the support that they saw Chef Maryland had online, with the initial donations we were able to collect. They backed out. They went ahead and decided to give her keys back. A sister who we work with, an attorney, worked with Chef Marilyn as a friend, not to represent her, but to also help her screen other attorneys so they wouldn't come with further predatory contracts. And Chef Marilyn got to where she finally found an attorney who she felt, she could trust. And they were able to draw up an agreement with the two attorneys, where those two attorneys backed out. But I know, Prince Solomon, your platform and your audience is very familiar with spiritual work and the higher sciences that are quite often not talked about. So what I'm running for is in the 55th district. Okay. It just so happened this year I turned 55. Our Africa Town Coalition is in our 10th year, so that's 5 and 5 is 10. And we just recently found out Chef Marilyn was born in 1955.
Wow.
And something else I found out yesterday, this is the 55th year of the Congressional Black Caucus. And you see, they have basically been dismantled right now. So we see the alignment of the 5-5, and that is kind of where we saw the connection of us working with Chef Marilyn. Another interesting point is pretty much everything the incumbent Isaac Bryan has done has backfired. One of the things he did, he and Tom Steyer, they went and paid another black business on Crenshaw that's pretty well known as Doulin's. That's also a soul food restaurant, but that has been, I guess you would say, the restaurant of choice, the soul food of choice for the more affluent blacks or the middle class blacks. So Isaac and Tom Steyer paid for a commercial there. However, there was a lot of community response and opposition to that commercial. And then Chef Marilyn was brought to us. Some folks said we went and did it to kind of counter that. That's not true. We were reached out to help Chef Marilyn because of our history of helping other businesses in our community get what they need and get the results they want. So that is something we have noticed with this campaign. Quite often things are just coming to us that we're not even strategizing, planning to happen. Early on, after the Grammys, another black business that we helped, the first legal black woman-owned cannabis business, they just so happened to have Lauryn Hill the day after she was on the Grammys. That gave us an opportunity for a lot of outreach. There's an area in Los Angeles known as the Jungles. We have a lot of people over there who we've been working with. There was a question for a long time, how will we connect with them? About a month ago, they just so happened to have a concert that featured Faith Evans, Yo-Yo, John B. We were invited to speak there. So there's been a lot of divine intervention in this campaign that has helped us to counter a lot of the big money commercial and advertising and political stunts they've been doing, to where we see that in this 5-5, in this fight for the 5-5, that there is something even bigger that we still haven't fully identified.
No, that's wonderful divine intervention, and the fact that, a lot of these people have all this power but no influence, and I've been paying attention to really what's been going on. I think, as always, like, just to say, even in passing, man, if I leave a comment or just try to, we promote as much as we can on our end when we get a chance to. We think you do fantastic, noble work. You get what I'm saying? And with that being the case, and that does sound like divine intervention, numerology, it's probably transits going on for you and everything. And also congratulations on your big 55th too, by the way. It's a blessed day on the earth, right? No problem. So with Isaac Bryan, because I think he's a very interesting specimen. They all kind of come with the same energy. And I've seen him be very active online. Yeah, even he went as far as to find us on Twitter and blocked us, and we've never had no engagement. Well, I said, wow. Man, they must be wearing you out there. So, with the majority of the consensus in you all's backyard being dissatisfied with him, and you're saying even the middle class and the upper class black folk, you're saying they're dissatisfied with him as well. you said that he was trying to film commercials in there to get his campaign rolling, and it's just been a lot of interruptions for him. So do you, so far from what you've been eyeballing outside of big money, has it been necessarily the best run for him for on his end with the campaign and everything?
There's a lot of complications, because even beyond, the issue with the reparations, the issue with SB 79, people out here in general are done with the Democrats. At one point, there were 80 different candidates running for governor. At one point, there were 40 different candidates running for the mayor of LA. So that is also going to have some interesting results with this election. We do know there is a strong Black Democratic movement out here, and they're doubling down on being Black Democrats. However, we know in general a lot of them are concerned. In addition to Isaac, the rest of the Black caucus, a couple of them are running unopposed, but the ones who have candidates, we see similar situations. Even outside of the state assembly seats, we have a young brother, Chris Martin. He's running for what has been a historically Black community, one of the first Black communities, but now for the first time in 60 years, there is no official Black candidate on the ballot. They've been finding ways to prevent or make it harder for a lot of us who are not, I guess you say those of us who are independents, no party preference, who are running to get on the ballot. There's another young brother in Compton. He's already a councilman. He's attempting to run for mayor. They just put out some type of financial situation with him to where they're now trying to isolate and sanction him to make it harder for him to continue his run for mayor. There's another younger brother running for sheriff. There's actually two young brothers running for sheriff. One who they seem to favor is getting the support, but the second one, he's meeting opposition. So right now, in general, there is a serious fight to keep the status quo, both in general, but also the Black status quo. And it's crazy, because what they're not realizing is, as more of us get pushed out, they become less relevant. And going back to the situation I was saying in the LA City Council District 9, which was a historically Black community, a couple years ago, there were some tapes leaked by some of the city officials and one of the the presidents of the LA Federation of Unions. And they basically discussed how the Latinos were looking to take the city over. And there was a redistricting battle between Council District 9 and Council District 8. And they said they made moves to prefer Council District 9 got more resources because they knew they were about to take that over.
A year-old recording, often coarse and racist, was obtained by the LA Times. It suggests Martinez gaming out potential ways to divvy up the district of disgraced councilman Mark Ridley Thomas.
If he resigns and the African Americans look at this as a hostile takeover because he's gone, we'll have to figure that out, because politically they're going to come after him.
Ridley Thomas is suspended from his position and facing trial, scheduled to begin next month on federal bribery charges.
Currently, there is a Black council member, Curran Price. He just came under charges. But instead of him endorsing another Black person, he instead chose to endorse his Latino chief of staff. So again, we're seeing where the Black misleadership is so caught up in the moment and seeing what all they can grab, they're not taking the necessary steps to preserve Black LA, to preserve Black California. And it's leading to them becoming less and less relevant. Also with Black media, they're not understanding, as more of us get pushed out, these other people are going to be advertising with them like that. The three main hip hop stations in LA right now are being run by Latinos. So that's the insanity of the Black Boule, the Black Democrats, that they're not saying. They are gradually leading to their own demise by doing all of this foolishness.
Has anyone in hip hop media or just even in your localized media, hip hop media, have they, covered what's been going on with you?
Well, I gotta give it up. One of our primary support has been coming from Miss Toy. A lot of folks might recognize her song with Ice Cube. You could do it, put your back into it.
Mm-hmm.
She had a few other ones that went pretty big, but she's both used her platform, her social media platform. She does a weekly show, the Lovely Radio Show, where she's been speaking on it, and she currently stays in Vegas, but she's driven up here twice now. Initially, when we were standing on the sidewalk with Chef Marilyn, she came once and helped the situation go viral. And then the benefit fundraiser we did a couple weeks ago in Africa Town for Chef Marilyn, she came and she performed. So she's been one of the primary ones. There are some other local artists who are pretty well known in the city. They've been stepping up. Like I said, a little over a month ago, there was the situation in the jungles where Faith Evans, Yo-Yo, John D were there. So that helped big. But outside of that, a lot of the mainstream artists, we're not getting any real support. We do kind of credit Kendrick Lamar. A couple years ago, he had a song called Watch the Party Die. And where that could be interpreted a lot of different ways, we know it was very consistent with what's happening with the Democratic Party. So that's been kind of one of our anthems and fighting a lot of these Black Democrats, watch the party die. But specifically, the mainstream Black media, whether it be radio, newspapers, they've been kind of ignoring the situation. They've been endorsing and providing their platform for a lot of this misleadership, and a lot of the other more well-known artists out here have, from what I've observed, just completely ignored what's going on.
And that is a good theme song to ride out to, as far as like the party dying. And the reason why I think it's appropriate, because to your point, there is no self-preservation. You're doing all of this you're doing all this jackleg shit, and it's dwarfing the community. So when I'm seeing some of the stuff you're saying, like even, Isaac Bryan, because, we went live, because somebody was letting us know about what was taking place. And, we called in, even again, we're not there, but it's just called in and we were speaking to people as well. And the defiant energy to divert the reparation conversation and anything that seems pro-Black or edgy to them, they seem to step away from. From your perspective, is it just the whole situation is that, my sheets are silk at night, so I don't care what's going down in the lower hills, that's kind of giving this energy and this attitude, because it in the long run, it's going to continue to harm the community, because that's what's going on out here in Atlanta. I know a lot of people, they're like, oh man, there's a lot of Black folks out there. Yeah, and there's a lot of Black blocking out here too. You get what I'm saying? So it's kind of like the same energy, just happen to be more Negroes running around. Do you get what I'm saying?
Right. And it's ignorance, because like I was saying earlier, they're not realizing it's gradually leading to their own irrelevance. Mm-hmm. And as there are less of us, the less relevant they will be. And part of why we identified last year when they chose to come with a bill to further delay and study our reparations for another 3 to 5 years, the way things are going, in another 3 to 5 years, there will be even less of us. Mm-hmm. And more of these positions will be taken over. And as more of these positions are taken over, other people have shown us they don't have any concern or regard to give us reparations, even though most of these communities have benefited off of the backs of us, the fights we fought. When people talk about anything from GR to other affirmative action gains, it's been mostly other people that have benefited from that. And that's what I think a lot of the Black misleaderships and other who are more affluent right now don't get. We're going right back to a situation to where our ancestors had to fight their way over into these communities against racist white folks. Now we're fighting racist Latinos, racist Asians, racist Armenians, racist Persians, and they are not getting right now. these people are paying you some respect because you're in a position of power, but eventually they're going to want that position of power. And the same way you're helping them to displace us, they're going to displace you. So that's what I'm saying. It's ignorance, it's insanity. And yeah, they might be in the silk sheets tonight, but in a couple years, they're going to be out there in them homeless encampments if they don't figure out how to come correct.
I get you. Yeah. It will be held on the 2nd, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And we're going to make sure, we plug it in for people to check into the comment section too, by the way, so you guys get a chance to lock that in. Billion, is there anything that you kind of want to impress upon the general public about, what's been going on in Africatown, Crenshaw, and dealing with these Democrats like Isaac Bryan, and some of these other folks that kind of they're beating around the bush on a lot of different things, including, before we even get to Donald Trump, to your point, before you even get to that whole Trump dichotomy and what's been going on with redistricting, and now you're hearing black caucuses everywhere talking about we might get washed away in the flood. Is there anything that you just genuinely want to just the strongest message that you want to get out to the public? You have the floor.
We say gentrification is the invisible and silent monster that is even more effective were they to come into our community shooting and dropping bombs, because too many people don't realize it until they're being affected by it. About a year and a half ago, we were in a place, the sheriffs came to evict the people who were there, and one person talked to that sheriff, and they basically shared that was one of 30 evictions they were carrying out that day. And the rate at which our unhoused people were dying got up to 6 to 7 people per day. So that's 42 a week. And if you can do the math, but the point I'm attempting to illustrate is that where, a couple years ago, they were talking about all the devastation in Palestine, the amount of people that were being killed, the buildings and everything that was being bombed, and gradually the land that was being taken over. People are not understanding that is happening right here real time in our communities right now. But again, because they do it systemically by making it unaffordable, as I was saying, evict so many people, foreclose so many people homes, shut down so many businesses, that a lot of people do not understand. Like I was saying in the beginning, this is no longer a state of emergency. We are in a state of being erased, a state of being wiped out. And the way we push back is by targeting the misleadership and the money behind the misleadership. We know it's not just Tom Steyer, behind Isaac and these other nuts they have running, but there's other money back there. And once you identify that, is formulating a strategy and organizing the community to start pushing back against those individuals. Because as long as the wizard can stay behind the curtain and do the foolishness, they will be successful. But once we start identifying the wizards behind the curtains and open that curtain, pull the curtain on them, and start strategizing, not just to go against these fools they got out front. Like I was saying, the campaign manager, he's not even a pawn. He's a checker piece on the chessboard. Isaac, he's more to where you get to being a pawn. He might be on that back row as far as a bishop and all of that, but even beyond the chessboard, it's the hand that's moving the pieces. And that's what we have to identify and formulate. And what I always encourage people out here, in addition to looking at your individual means of addressing what's happening, people out here are looking for another job, a third job, a fourth job. People are looking for a better job. People who are hustling, they're looking for new ways to hustle and come up. As cannabis became legal, it's not as profitable in the streets. A lot of the hustling I was doing a few years ago, burning CDs and DVDs, that's dead now because everything is online and everything online is being controlled. So it's understanding that in addition to your individual way to respond to this, we have to collectively organize to go for the wizards, to go for the hand that's moving all the pieces. And that's where we find more victory. And it's in us to do it. You know, we are great people. And like I was saying, with this whole 5-5 we're identifying out here in LA, we have nothing to do with the Congressional Black Caucus being in their 55th year and being dismantled. Mm-hmm. You know, I did this interview with this sister in South Africa, and she was saying, from her perspective of being outside, that Trump appears to be an evil blessing in disguise. True. Even though, you know, there's a lot put out about the harms and effects of what he's doing, he's actually also attacking a lot of folks who have presented themselves to be enemies for us. You know, be it the Black Democrats, be it this whole immigration flooding our communities with illegal immigrants. A lot of those things are helping us in different ways, but it's also figuring out how we as a people are going to address it and make it benefit us.
No, there's a factory reset, you know, and I actually agree with you. You know, Trump being there, there's a lot of malicious targets getting hit. You get what I'm saying? And it's kind of like, you know, it's above my pay grade. But also the 5, also it's a signifier for freedom too, by the way. So to your point, this is about, like, you know, destroy and rebuild, you know. And yes, I know I hear a lot of the squeals from the Black Caucus. A lot of them are crying everywhere right now. They don't know what to do. And it's kind of like this whole thing, when you had the time in the real estate to make a difference, the difference should have been made, you know. So it's kind of like, you know, and in essence, what we're dealing with, it's karmic for all of us, good and bad. So Billion Godsun, what we're going to do, we're going to continue to push regardless, just in general. You know, again, you guys can always hit us up. You know, we had some tech issues for some off and on for a minute now, but you guys can always hit us up, and we'll make sure we'll push whatever we can, agenda, if you guys have any events and things of that nature, because we got people that are in your backyard that do listen, and they would love to just be aware of what's been going on. And a lot of people, they love what you do, and they're very supportive of that too. So, you know, we need that across, by the way. So Billion Godsun, 55th District, the 2nd, folks. You guys get out there, vote for the dear brother, man. He's been putting boots on the ground for a minute and belt to ass to a lot of invaders too, by the way. So y'all can check him out on Instagram, correct? On X. And yes. All right. And then there you have it. So we're going to make sure we get him to get going, and, you know, for Brandy Kane and the wonderful people of Africa Town as well.
Hey, Prince Solomon and the whole Thought Crime team, man, we appreciate y'all big time. And as I was saying, a lot of these folks are making themselves irrelevant. Mm-hmm. We constantly see platforms like yours are getting way bigger numbers, way bigger response than these clowns who are selling out. So we salute y'all. We appreciate y'all, because you all have made yourself the most relevant in times like right now. So thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Billion Godsun here. Again, like he said, we're running for state assembly seat for the 55th District. We know the egregious act that was committed upon the Black community by the incumbent, the sitting incumbent. And we need some new blood in there. And this is the man for the job. That's right. Tried and true activist, stomped down, you know, boots on the ground for decades now. I was campaigning for him recently out on a solo mission, and I handed the flyer to a sister, and she said, oh, I saw him standing up for Chef Maryland. You know, so he got my vote. So, you know, the word is out there. It's getting out there. This was a stranger that I met, and she had already been familiar with Billion and his works. So that's just one of many examples of the community works that this brother has been doing, has continued to do throughout this campaign. And we thank all of you for your support. Dewan B, thank you for all your support. Thought Crimes, right. Thank you guys for all your support.
That's right.
All the individuals that signed the petition, everybody that we've come across in the field. You know, we really appreciate the support. And even those that's not supporting so much, we see y'all too, and it's all good, because you know, we understand that we on the right side of this reparations fight. We on the right side of the good, fighting the good fight against racism. And we doing our part right here in Los Angeles, California. So just shout out to everybody that is doing this work across the nation. We see y'all. I heard the little the Melrose clip in that intro in the beginning. I thought that was cool, little addition. He recently followed me on social media. So, you know, we all are connected, and the gap is closing between regional differences and things of that nature. You know, we do have the World Wide Web that has brought us all closer together, and that we're able to have these discussions and these conversations in a much more cohesive manner. And you know, we out here, we doing the good work. Y'all go to billionis55.com, and June 2nd, look for that name on that ballot and cast your vote.
You shouldn't turn your back on me.
Is that a challenge?
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Black folks are nosy. They have specials. Nosy specials. Why does a bee make honey? You ain't a bee. Why do you give a fuck?
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
If he dies, he dies.
Go to our Patreon for more. And don't bother me.